most famous ads for Accurist watches. Accurist. The name's easy to remember. They're very accurate, and you wear them on your wrist. I mean, you don't have to wear them on your wrist. Obviously, it's a free country. I mean, the Accurist people are very broad-minded.
When we discuss the heritage of various watch brands, one theme keeps cropping up: horological significance. It's almost like one of the stats on a top trumps card. The more revolutionary developments the brand has brought to the market, the higher their score. Of course, we know the big hitters: Seiko, Rolex, Citizen, Omega, yada yada yada. The English brand I'm featuring today has a slightly different take on the concept of heritage. Despite being founded back in 1946, Accurist has never been at the forefront of horological or technical innovation. In fact, the vast majority of their range is constituted of simple quartz fashion pieces with no extraordinary functionality built in. What's the catch then? What makes this one stick out among the sea of generic brands out there? Well, if you're from the UK, you may already have an inkling. You see, Accurist has used some clever strategies over the years to ingrain itself into British culture. Most famously, in 1986, they became the sponsor of BT's National Speaking Clock service, a role which it fulfilled for over 20 years. For those unfamiliar, this telephone service reads the correct time to callers using a pre-recorded human voice track. A bit like this.
At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Accurist will be 4:21 and 50 seconds.
Strange, eh? This unusual facility predates World War II, proving particularly useful before the advent of accurate quartz watches and the digital revolution that's followed. Many other nations have an equivalent amenity under different names. As of 2016, the UK version was reportedly still receiving a staggering 70 million calls annually, so goodness knows how much business this generated for Accurist over the years. Amongst other things, they also successfully tied themselves in with the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, home of Greenwich Mean Time, later acting as the official sponsor and manufacturer of the Millennium countdown clock, televised to the entire nation during the extra special New Year celebrations in 2000. With these two innovative marketing moves, they had effectively bought time itself. Whenever accurate time was required, there was an immediate, unquestionable association with Accurist. I guess it's in the name really. The word Accurist may not conjure visions of prestige and luxury, but it's easily the smartest wristwatch name I've come across from a marketing perspective. It's easy to pronounce and directly infers that you'll get accurate time on your wrist. But what else do you get on your wrist? Are these watches actually any good, or is it just all marketing fluff and garbage products? Well, I got Amazon to send in one for this video, so thanks to them. Currently, this 7216 chronograph is sitting at £59 on their site, which is within the general price segment that Accurist tends to target. You'll find it affiliate linked in the video description if you want to check it out for yourself. For that little money, I wasn't expecting too much, but honestly I've been pretty impressed. Here's a rundown. Unsurprisingly, these watches are produced in the Far East, not the UK, though given the low cost, that would have been mission impossible anyway. Nevertheless, this one is fully constructed of the industry standard 316L stainless steel, a material often bragged about by rival fashion brands at triple this retail price. Finishing is reasonable, with a predominantly brushed look and a slim polished ring towards the outside of the bezel. While the brushing is basic and obviously doesn't rival much more expensive watches, I think it's the correct choice that matches the theme of the watch and helps conceal scratches, something that entry-level watches are particularly susceptible to. I also think this low-budget brushing tends to look better than low-budget polishing, which can cheapen the appearance of affordable watches very easily. For some reason, the shape of this case is extremely pleasing. It's a shade under 41mm with a lug-to-lug of 47mm and a thickness of 11.3, which includes the domed crystal. Perhaps it's the overall slimness or the perfectly angled lugs, I'm not quite sure. Whatever the cause, it sits beautifully on the wrist and looks much better than I imagined. I'd say it wears more like a 39.5mm watch, and that conservative lug-to-lug length places it in a bit of a Goldilocks zone that will likely please a wide variety of wrist sizes. For instance, my wrists are pretty tiny indeed at 15.5cm, and this one still looks surprisingly wearable. 50 meters of water resistance is all you can expect here, despite the screwback, though that's better than the 3-bar splashproof rating assigned to most similarly priced watches. Alongside that, there's a simple push-pull crown and a pair of pushers, both of which aren't very responsive. They both have a mushy feeling that lacks any real tactile feedback. The heart of this Accurist is the Seiko VD53C quartz movement, which is a solid movement that you can buy individually for around £20 a pop, obviously less when purchased in bulk. This means the Accurist isn't necessarily more accurate than most other quartz watches, as the brand name or marketing may imply, though for a watch at this retail price, I think it's still adequate. Hand alignment is also decent, albeit variable. The second hand generally hits the markers, though can be prone to missing depending on the angle at which the watch is held. Fortunately, the majority of the quality control on display is rather good. The internal tachymeter lines up well with the dial below, and the indices are consistently straight too, which I was not expecting. Something I wasn't quite expecting either is the colour. The stock Amazon image showcases a creamy set of subdials and a similarly toned tachymeter, giving a vintage vibe. However, in person, these sections exude a much more muted champagne silvery finish that shifts the resultant aesthetic forward about a decade or so. It doesn't reduce the attractiveness in my opinion. I still think it's one of the best looking £60 watches I've come across, with a good amount of detail that includes applied indices, recessed subdials, and a lowered chapter ring at the circumference. When combined with the domed mineral crystal, it all comes together into a smart, coherent, and versatile reverse panda design that looks good with a variety of outfits. Perhaps that 50 meters text could have been removed, but overall, I think it's still quite clean and nicely done. The solid link bracelet is also worth highlighting. Yes, I did just say solid link bracelet.
Are you listening, Seiko?
No joke, it even houses solid end links, and while it doesn't blend in perfectly with the case, it's still a surprisingly good addition to this budget watch. It's also to be noted that the stock clasp has no micro adjustment holes, though that is somewhat alleviated by the small size of the links, the removal of which does allow for rather minor adjustments. Overall, I found it comfortable during usage and haven't felt the need to replace it yet. As a brand, Accurist has always claimed to provide solid, reliable watches for low prices. With its good build quality and attractive design for well under £100, I think it's fair to say they've accomplished that objective with this chronograph. For those after a watch with a cool design that they can wear with a variety of clothes, I think this is a great choice for not much money. It's like a nicer Vincero or alternative fashion watch brand, but for half the price. The amount that should be spent on a fashion watch with entry-level specifications. It's linked below, and if you're after more recommendations, check out my top 10 best watches list right now. Consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.